Welcome to Forever Unbreakable, everyone. Tonight is going to be a bit different than any other night on or recording on Forever Unbreakable. We'll hopefully do a couple of these in the future as time progresses. But tonight's episode is going to be more of like what the future of Forever Unbreakable is and answering everybody's questions that they might have had that have been sent in. So some of these questions might apply to things that you wanted to know, some might not. But we're going to start off first with the plan for Forever Unbreakable. For those of you that don't know, I'm getting ready to deploy to support the U.S. military somewhere overseas. So I will be gone here pretty soon. So what that means is not that Forever Unbreakable will end, but there will be some other hosts now stepping up and doing multiple recordings for us. There will be a little bit different in the editing or individuals' capabilities to edit the podcast, depending on who's doing the editing work. I'm going to try and get some episodes from over there, but it's definitely not going to be your every Monday podcast anymore. It's going to be more sporadic, random. We're going to try and keep it to Mondays as much as possible on the releases, but it's going to be a lot more spread out. So unfortunately, we won't be able to provide you with good content every Monday. Coming up, though, I've got a couple of exciting podcasts. I've got my buddy Shannon coming on, who has spent a good amount of time in jail, prison, but now has gone on to run well over 100 marathons. We're going to bring Dan Prigge and Jason Braun back for a follow-up episode, but that's going to go a little different direction than the Forever Unbreakable typical podcast. It's just going to be more of a sit-around bullshit and and talk about people type thing. So those two are coming up, but let's get into the weeds here. I thought the most fitting first question, so you'll see me reference the notebook. I rewrote down all of the questions that I've received since starting Forever Unbreakable. So the first one is, why the name Forever Unbreakable? Like, how did it come to be? So the actual name of the podcast, and now that I did the interview with my wrestling coach, the actual name of the podcast originally was going to be The Relentless Pursuit of Excellence. But, and then we had decided to scale it to The Relentless Pursuit and then have it be whatever you wanted it to be. However, you couldn't get the .com. There was a bunch of other podcasts using similar type names. And I didn't want to be in the same genre. I guess I'm in the same genre as a lot of people, I'm sure, in the podcast world, but I didn't want to be like fully committed to that. So we went around with some things and eventually came up with the name Unbreakable, which was already taken. You couldn't get Unbreakable.com. I believe it's owned by a movie. The Unbreakable podcast is a Navy SEAL podcast that focuses on a lot of Navy SEAL stuff. Good podcast as well, but heavy on the Navy SEAL stuff. And then it just hit us like Forever Unbreakable, like never going to break. Like no matter what happens, I'm always going to find a way to get to tomorrow and then be successful. So we punched that in. The .com was available. There was, nobody had copyrights to it or trademarked it or anything like that. So we're like, boom, there's a name. Let's rock and roll. So that was how the name Forever Unbreakable came to be. The next question came from, or shortly after, the self-reflection. Basically, to sum up the question or summarize the question, was like, what are some of the techniques or how do you determine that it's a good time? Yeah, how do you determine that it's a good time or a necessary time to be doing self-reflection? And so the response that I basically sent back via email to that individual was that you need to, if you're new to self-reflection, that it should be like a calendar item. So put it in your cell phone to go off every other Monday, let's say. And when it goes off, you put it at like 8 p.m. or sometime when you're going to have the time, and then you sit down and you do a self-reflection. And you do that until it becomes a habit, and you find yourself like, oh, it's a Tuesday, and I just self-reflected on yesterday. Like, I need to do it again because I am not producing the way that I want it. So until it becomes a pattern, I guess it's good to like get started with it as more of a disciplined format. And that's how I started when I started doing my self-reflection and like how I wanted to become better and do more. I started by that exact thing of doing a self-reflection on a disciplined timeline and schedule. So I was doing them essentially like started with once a month, realized that wasn't enough, and I went to once a week immediately until I could figure out a better pattern. And now I'm at a point where I self-reflect when I know that I need to, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a week, and sometimes it's not for a month. And when I do draw it out to a month, I notice that there's a lot of things, and that's usually I'll retighten my shot group on a lot of things, whereas my self-reflection typically is just one thing that I really want to work on over the next few days, and then I strive to be better at that. So having come off the military course that I was just at with situational awareness, my newest like focus right now is how can I become more situationally aware of what's going on around me. And I realized how deficient I am at what is actually going on around me. Where do I sit in a restaurant, and what do I all see in that restaurant? Usually I don't pay attention to anything more than one table away from me. And now this is opening my eyes to paying attention to a greater landscape and assessing things at different speeds and with a different level of quality based on what I initially see. Do I rescan that, or what do I do? And assessing a room as quickly as possible. So that's one of the things that is like a newer focus for me. As far as physical fitness goes, I've now recalibrated and I'm now back to doing some more of the weightlifting type structured stuff, because that is where I can see that I'm deficient. Right now my pull-ups are way down and things like that, so I know where I need to improve. And a lot of that is done from the self-reflection. I'm not where I want to be in my college classes, let's say. Then I'm going to refocus some effort, energy, and work there. And that's the main thing from the self-reflection is like, how can I make myself better? And then also, how can I be better for my community, my family, my friends, and be better in my marriage? So that's what for technique-wise, a lot of times I'll write stuff down. I'll take just a quick note, write it down. I've written stuff down on the whiteboard at work or a Post-it note and stick it to my computer screen so that I see it all of the time. Like, basically, do this. Okay, do this again. Do it again. Because every time you look at it, it's a reminder to stay focused. Sorry about that. Fighting a cold. So another thing that I do with self-reflection was when I reflected that I wasn't putting in the quality of work I should, because my cell phone, I would go on Facebook or Instagram, particularly Facebook, because they give you the little red circle with like 10 notifications or 2 notifications or whatever it is that day, right? And I'm one of the people who has an issue where when I have stuff on my phone, I need to clear it out. So I moved Facebook to a different screen on my phone. So then I had to open my phone, slide screens to be able to get to Facebook. Eventually I put it inside of a folder on that page, making myself more and more disconnected from it. I was still struggling with finding myself just at random times without even thinking about it being on Facebook. And so then I put the Post-it note on my computer screen at work, like, don't go on Facebook. And then I would, if I was going on Facebook unintentionally, it resorted to the point where I had to do 25 push-ups every time I did it. And that was how I corrected that. But it was through my self-reflection of what was I doing when I wasn't thinking about it, which was going on Facebook without thinking about it. Had costed me critical time at work that could have allowed me to, provide for more soldiers or create a better environment for my employees, things like that. So that is how I use self-reflection. Another question that came up that I've wanted to bring up for a while, and I just had a really, really good talk with my buddy Jason Braun about it like 2 weeks ago, that I'm glad somebody asked, best leadership practices that I've learned in the military. And when I was talking to Jason about leadership, I told him the biggest thing that I've learned is that you can't lead 2 people the same way. No 2 people have the same motivations, and you have to find an individual's motivation to succeed and then use that to create success within them that will create success for you, for the company, platoon, or in the civilian world, company or corporation or whatever it is, right? Or even in your own division of that company or area of that company, region, single store, whatever it is. You have to find what motivates individuals and then use that to create more success inside of your organization. And you only do that by leading everybody differently because everybody's motivations are different. Somebody may want to be the best just to be the best, and they're going to work harder and try and succeed. Other people are content with what they have, and others care about like their family as their motivation, or having the money to take a girl out on a date is their motivation. Whatever it is, you got to find those things and utilize them. And then I think a thing that's helped me a lot in my leadership is giving the individuals the why. Why am I asking you to do this task? And then I ask that same thing from my leadership. Why are you asking me to do this? Like, what is the reasoning behind this? What greater good is being achieved? And when I understand the greater good and understand how that works for me, then I'm more motivated to do the task, and in turn, I'm going to do a better job completing the task. So I think those are like the two biggest leadership things that an individual can understand is, first, everybody needs to be led differently. So if you're leading everybody the same way, you're failing somebody, guaranteed, because some people need the stern talk. Hey, this is how it's going to be. This is how we do work. And if you don't like it, you're fired, right? Some people need that. Some people need to be written up. They need to see it on paper. And other people just need to talk like, hey, if you did this, this would give us this, this, and this, and you'll create more work from them. So every individual is motivated through different purposes, and there's different ways to motivate them, and you need to try different things to figure out what's going to work for that individual. Because you can't just look at them and be like, yeah, this is going to work. We're going to be, too easy. We've got it. Isn't the case. Because you've got to just work with them and get to figure it out. Usually it takes me 3 months of working with somebody before I've figured out their motivation and exactly how to lead them and create more success. The next questions are a series of questions that I've gotten. Basically, there's probably like 10 of these questions that came through, and I kind of summarized it down to the one category of workouts. There's like the usual workouts, the hardest workout, and things like that. So usual workouts for me, it all depends on what I'm training for. It's very, very results-based, result-heavy. So if I want to do an Ironman, I'm going to train to achieve the result of that I want at Ironman. And if I want to do what we call the LGN, the look good naked workout, then I'm going to do the things that are required for that result, both nutritionally and in the gym, right? So like 60% of your result is your nutrition typically, and the other 40% is the straight effort you're willing to put into those exercises. So during an Ironman ramp up, a usual workout might be hour and a half in the pool, which is like 3,000 meters in the pool, 3,000 plus. And then I'll go, so somewhere around like 2 miles. And then I'll go on a morning bike ride a lot of times, which will be like 20, 25 miles because I've got to get to work. And then as soon as I get home from work, it's, 5, 10, 15 mile run, or another 25 to 50 miles on the bike. It all really depends on the day. Weightlifting workouts, I try to keep to an hour and a half or less. I prefer the HIIT training, the high intensity training, which is like your CrossFit type stuff, things of that nature, just because it gets your heart rate up, builds all that intensity. And the hardest workout I've ever done, I really don't remember what it would be. I would say something like the world record is up there on the hardest workouts. I've done a double Murph once, and that was absolutely stupid. I'll never do it again. And that was insanely difficult. And then like baton death marches are never easy. Ironman with the ruck on is actually probably the title for the hardest workout I've ever had. When I carried the ruck for the marathon part of the Ironman, I was blacking out and dying. And or Best Ranger. Best Ranger broke me as well. Jose Moreno, good times. But that was no joke. So the next question, how hard was it really to complete the world record? The actual event itself was not as hard as I had expected it to be, and that is because of the training that I put in going into it. However, it was next level stupid difficult. Yeah. There was 17 months of work put into the world record, to breaking the world record. There was just a tremendous amount of effort and energy put into it. 600 miles of running between January 1st and May 20th is way too many miles for me to care to run. But yeah, stupid hard. That is the answer. And that's why not many people have done it. There's somebody trying to break it on November 10th. So I'm excited to see how they do. I wish them the best. I know the amount of effort and energy that they're putting in. They wanted to break it in September and kick the can down the road to November. So good on them. And I wish them the best. I had to kick the can down the road too because I wasn't ready for the attempt. Then next question, where do you find your guests? So anybody can go on foreverunbreakable.com and apply to be a guest on here. I've got a couple in the queue right now. So the majority of the guests that have been on here, I don't know. I have no idea who they are. They apply. The wife and I, we vet them, make sure that they are what we're looking for, and that they have a good story. And hopefully that they can help inspire somebody to do something more or push through something like cancer or something like that. So a lot of them apply. Otherwise, I reach out to people all the time that are doing big things to see if I can get them on here. So there's a lot out there in that. The next one. Okay, what is your motivation? This one I really liked, and I've been asked this one more than once, and it's probably my favorite question to be asked. So my biggest motivation is to inspire and improve the lives of others. It's why HUA got started. It's why I serve in the military, and it's why I go out and compete and train and work hard to better myself every day so that I'm providing a better example to our youth. And to anybody out there who is, pursuing anything in life, like I want to help show them that anything is possible. That's why, like talking about before the world record, it's why I spent the 17 months training for the world record, was in hopes that it would create both the fundraising aspect, which was very successful at almost $14,000, but also create an inspiration to everyone in the world that sees it, that is trying to achieve something, that like, if you're willing to put your head down and grind, you can be successful. It might take a long time, but if you don't quit and you keep putting in the work day after day after day, you will be successful. And if you don't, maybe you get lucky. I'm not a man to take chance when it comes to luck or skill. When I can put in the work and gain the skill. So my biggest motivation is the inspiration of others. To sum it up in one word or in two words, it's inspiration of others, which is 3 words. Sorry, but like the thing that I like about it is it's much like the what's next question, like what's in the future. Like, have a motivation. Even if your motivation isn't inspiring others, have one. So if somebody who wants to lead me knows now that I am best led by being given the opportunity to inspire others, it's probably going to put me in some sort of a role where I can do that, like maybe a small leadership role or something like that, where I can prepare and inspire others. So it's always important to have a motivation. It's important to tell people what your motivation is, and it's important to tell people what's next in your life so that you've got people to hold you accountable and keep you with the passion and motivation and desire to achieve and drive on and drive forward. All right, there's 2 questions left. So yeah, sorry, this is a super quick episode, but the last 2 questions are, what's going to happen to HUA when you deploy, and what's going to happen to Forever Unbreakable when you deploy? As several people already knew I was deploying, so the Forever Unbreakable we talked about before, there's going to be some other hosts and things of that nature, and they're just not going to be, every Monday dropping episodes. So that's just not going to happen anymore. And what's going to happen to HUA when I deploy? So HUA is now led by Tammy Hardwick. So I've actually officially stepped down back in early to mid-October. So what is it today? Like the 20th today when I'm recording this? Yeah, the 20th. So, HUA's already been running under Tammy and a new board of directors. The new board they're killing it. So Tammy is doing a better job at the president role than I had ever done. She's just got a insane drive and an insane focus, which is beyond exciting to see. The hardest thing for me with giving up HUA is probably also giving up the Ruck March, the control of that. Having been in control of that since 6 years ago in its first year, and just like HUA in its first year 6 years ago, it's crazy to look back and reflect on, the struggles that I've had, how hard it is to tell a veteran that you're not going to be able to help them for whatever reason it is, and a lot of the hard decisions and a lot of the extra hours burning all-nighters, just to be able to provide a better venue, a better event, a better program, and support a veteran, or talking a veteran down from suicide for hours and hours and hours through a night. And Bob, the national president, has been an absolute rock when it comes to that. He's one of the best that I've ever seen when it comes to that, and he pours his heart and soul in it. I cannot say enough good things about him. And what he has done for HUA at the national level. But it's been exciting. HUA is going to continue on like I was never gone. But I won't be the face of it anymore. We've got a new face for the Ruck March to do the opening ceremonies. Kaylee French is going to crush the media stuff like she did last year. Really excited for her to do that. Sorry about that. So, yeah, there's a lot of good things coming from HUA right now. Scott Bartels, he's stepped up, took Steve Westfall's spot, and he will now be our VP, Vice President. So there's and Deb's staying in the secretary role. Scott is coming with us. Kaylee's going to step up and work the treasury stuff till we get back, and so on and so forth. So we got Aaron is a new board member as well. So we've got a great team, a bunch of rock stars ready to kick butt, take names. When we get back, we're going to have to wait until the new election comes around and then reapply for whatever position that we might want within the organization, if we choose to get back on the volunteering aspect. But I'm very excited for where they're headed with it, the direction they're going, and the amount of work they're already doing. They've already started to create more programs and more venues to help veterans, and there's just a ton of exciting things coming. So stay tuned to the HUA channels through your social media or through the website, because there's a bunch of things coming up, and it's going to be super exciting for everybody to see. So the last thing that I have, I could define what Unbreakable means to me, but you guys basically, from listening to the previous episodes, know that it's all about the group and having some support to help you stay unbreakable. So thank you all for continuing to support me, support this podcast, and support everything that I do in my life. I've got a team of people that just freaking love me, and I love you all, and I can't thank you all enough. But the one I'm going to answer is what's next. So what's next for me is this deployment, going over as an E7, and I have a few men that will work underneath me on deployment, and my what's next is to bring them all home. So we're training super hard. We're going to go over, we're going to give it hell. We're going to do our best, and we're all going to come home. And then you'll see me back down in the studio, giving you guys all some fresh material from over there. I'm going to try and get a podcast together with each one of the guys that I'll have with me at some point about their life, what drives them, what motivates them, and how they do what they do and what they've got coming up post-deployment stuff. So post-deployment hopes and dreams for me, you're all going to have to wait. I've got a list of them, but we're all going to have to wait and see how the deployment does. But like I said, bring everybody home. That's the only plan right now. So thank you all for tuning into this short Q&A episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. Promise some length from the next ones again, so you guys can hopefully all get your commute or however you listen to it. So thanks again for tuning in. Enjoy your day and crush this Monday. Remain forever unbreakable.